In this video, I will be talking about a general and very kind of generic but deep approach of solving problems. My intention is that it should help as many people as possible, and although this is a two-part video and it's very long, about 1 hour, although it's very long, please invest this time in your life, because it will tackle the root of problems that you have, and I will deal in this video with self-confidence, responsibility, the law of attraction, karma, and how you can just change your view on things and how this dissolves the problems. So enjoy. Hello and welcome to my new video. First of all, I want to say that I decided to switch my channel language to English because I realized that in English I will reach a way broader audience, and since I'm really hoping to help as many people as possible with my videos, I thought about that it may be a good idea, so that because more people speak English, I assume. So for all my German subscribers, I really hope you're able to understand my English. Please stay with me because the content is really also for you is very valuable. So yes, I hope just to get a few more subscribers and a few more views by being in English. Okay, so this video will be it will be about a deep healing and a deep change in your life, and I really try to accomplish this by getting to the root of things, as I'm also trying with almost everything in my life. I'm usually not trying to fight the symptoms, but I'm trying to find the root cause for everything and then tackle that. Although it may be a bit more difficult, but in the end, in the long run, it will always, it will always be worth. And this video was also inspired by a lot of people that I helped on a certain platform, which is called 7cups.com, where people with problems can it's basically a chat. People go there who have problems, and there's then the other side of people who just listen, and usually they're not, encouraged to really give advice. But I noticed that after talking to several dozens of people there as a listener, that the problems that people have tend to be the same root cause I was already talking about, and I'm trying to condense and compress my experience with that into this very video, so that hopefully it has a very big scope and can reach as many people as possible, whilst being very generic in the sense, that it tackles several types of problems, but then the root causes will just be a few. So if you understand these things and not just, after watching a few minutes of this video think, oh, this has nothing to do with my life, he didn't totally not consider my problem. Well, I just say think again and let it sift in and sleep over it for a night, because I would boldly say that at least 95% of the problems, if not even more, should be tackled by this. And if you really understand what I'm saying here, I'm pretty sure you can improve your life to the better. And this is my only, wish. This is why I'm doing these videos. Okay, so what I figured a lot on this platform is that, the biggest problem that people seem to have, or when I'm really coming down to the core of things, is that they totally lack the self-confidence. So self-confidence will be a very big point in this video. And since I was blessed from my birth on that, I would say I have a pretty high self-confidence, let's say a 10 out of a 10. And I'm pretty thankful for that. But I noticed that almost everybody, if not everybody, with problems on this platform has a lower self-confidence. I mean, some people just were as low as 1 or 2. And I don't think I've ever heard from someone who says 7 or above. So if you think that your self-confidence on a scale from 0 to 10 is below 8, then I think there's at least something you can take from this video. And although it may be very long, although I'm trying to compress things already, but although it may be very long, please stick with it, invest this time in your life. I really hope it will be worth for you. And if not, I'm really sorry for that, okay? So self-confidence will be one of those core things that I want to talk about today. And also there are other topics which I try to, there's this categorization on the right, but it's not really totally divided. So every point that you see on the right is kind of interconnected with every other point. And although it may not seem like this in the beginning, if you really understand what I'm saying here, you will see that all these things are actually connected, and you can just start working on any one of these points, or depending on your special type of situation. And then you can, try to make the connections and see the bigger picture. Because for me, what I'm also doing is that, a few years ago, I didn't see the really big picture of things. I was still in the material world and, trying to see the big picture there. But once you did that, you expand your view. And then coming from this higher point of view, I'm trying to get back and feedback it in words that seem appropriate so that I can help you. Okay, this was a bit a complicated explanation, and but I hope you get my point. So let's see what we have on my list here. So of course on this platform and in life in general, people will have various sorts of problems. It can be something that, you have problems with your partner or with your family or some relationship or at work, with your health. But many of these things, they are just symptoms for something. And as I mentioned in the beginning, usually this has to do with your self-confidence. And also in a lot of cases, it has to do with your past. Which, of course, is understandable. If you understand the law of action and reaction, then it totally makes sense that from the past, things have happened, now having an effect now, and things are as they are because of the things that happened in the past. This may seem super obvious, but once you really understand the depth of karma, of, just the law of action and reaction, which is also your responsibility, then you really understand a big part of, life. You may have heard of karma several times before, and I'm not sure how well you are aware of what karma actually means. So the basic meaning is just action, and it kind of defines this concept that you are responsible for your actions and nobody else, and no outside circumstance is responsible for your actions. So if you decide to do something where your conscience says, well, this is wrong, this will leave an imprint on you. And these things may also very well accumulate from your last lives. So it doesn't matter if you believe in past lives or not, or if you just see the scope of this very life. It doesn't matter, because it's true for both. But you should know that it's always your responsibility. So this is also a very big other topic that I will be talking about later, because this totally changes the way, it changes the degree of control you think you have, like the choices that you have. So I want to start the introduction. Long introduction, I know, but I want to start the introduction with, the, let's say, average problems that people seem to have, at least on this platform, and also, when people try to talk with me and maybe ask for help. So let's say you have problems with your partner. Let's take this as the first example. For some reason, something's not going very well with your partner. Maybe he's not treating you well, or he's not, responding in the way that you want him to. He's not giving you the love that you want or expect from him. And maybe he's even abusing you. I mean, when people are on these anonymous chats, then they can be really open. And from what I've heard, horrible things happen. And it's just so sad to see why it happens. And, this really makes me also create these videos, because seeing this over and over, at some point I think like, man, I have to do more than just, you know, typing individually to everyone. So let's say you have a problem with your partner. Then ask yourself, why is that? Right? Is it the outside world that decided that you will be with this partner, and is there no other option of being with this partner? Well, you know, I don't really think so. You can have the choices of, for example, leaving him, or you know, it's not like you have to be with him, and if he doesn't meet your standards, then there's a lot of options that you can do. But I don't want to get onto the actions that you can take. I just want to say this is like one type of people that I have had in mind when I try to, you know, create the solutions. Another would be you're at work and you have a horrible boss, and you know he's pushing you around and people overloading you with work, and you have no time, and you know you don't really want to say no to them because you feel it's your duty to do that work and make over hours and not get paid, maybe not even getting paid for that. This would be another type of situation. Or you may have been terribly abused in your past. A lot of people have, and it's just incredible if, or maybe it's just me, I don't know why. I mean, I haven't been abused, but like so many people have told me that already, that I already met, that it's just incredible, especially the girlfriends that I had. Man, so if something like that happened to you, you're definitely not alone. So why am I saying all these things? I try to make you see that what I'm saying here, it will relate to you in a sense. It doesn't really matter where you, like what kind of problem you have and where you come from, because these are symptoms of something else. Whether you have been abused, or you have bad relationships, or bad health, bad thoughts, depression, these things are symptoms, you know. And I'm not sure like what kind of relief you're trying, you know, but pills, for example, definitely won't solve the problem. They never will, because it's just fighting symptoms, and you haven't, you know, cleaned the root cause, and this just can't work. So if you have watched this far, thanks very much so far, but keep on watching, because we're getting into, you know, why the situation is like it is and what you can do about it. So first of all, you know, I spend a lot of time with philosophies, like Buddhism especially, and Buddhism has this core concept of emptiness. Emptiness or voidness or Shunya, it basically means that things do not have the natures by themselves. Nothing has its own nature. Everything is interdependent. And you, your mind, your body, your thoughts, and the situations that happen to you, you know, they don't have inherent meaning or anything in it. It's always you that puts the meaning in that. So let's say you've had a bad experience. Well, let me say that there are no bad experiences. Neither are there good experiences. You can just label them good or bad. But if you really look into that, you will see there is nothing good or bad in that situation. It's just you saying this is good, this is bad. This is, you know, usually called a dualistic point of view, which of course it has a relative truth to it. Yes, you can call things good or bad, hot or cold. You can do that. But if you really look deeper into the things, you will see these things do not exist. They are just experiences. And this is the first step in healing yourself, is that you have to accept first what is, right? Because if you're not doing that, and I can tell you a lot of people aren't, if you're not accepting what is at the current moment and what has happened in the past without any exaggerations, then you're running away from, you know, life itself. You're running away from the moment. You're either trying to flee from the past, or flee from the future, or flee from the now. You know, the problem with fleeing is that you're always taking yourself with you. So I hope you can see that this is not the way to treat these things. You should always, you know, ask yourself, why is this situation as it is? Because it always has its causes. There's always a root for this. It's just whether you're intelligent enough or conscious enough to see that and to understand. But life will always give you, always give you lessons that you will be able to understand, in a sense, now or later. So better understand this now than later. So if you understand there are no bad experiences, then you also see that everything that happens here in this reality is just for us to grow and learn. But if you deny what is, and if you're running away from the tasks that are given to you, I mean, I'm not talking about work tasks here or family tasks, but the general thing that obviously you have to learn. Otherwise you wouldn't get these situations. It's not like you're getting random things here and the whole world is against you. No. You will see, or not, or you will see later, I don't know, but you will see that it's always your responsibility. The situations that occur, they are always your responsibility, whether you can understand it or not. I'm not saying that I can always understand why things are happening to me, but I can see there's a bigger scheme. There's something bigger behind the scenes that kind of guides us. And this bigger thing is way more intelligent than we with our limited minds. And it's pushing us in a certain direction, which is always good for us. Although, we may think, why is this happening to me? Right? But if you take some distance to what has happened and really think about why it happened to you, you should see that they give you experience and lessons to grow on. And if you're not avoiding what is in the current moment or what has happened in the past, if you're just being serious and honest with yourself, then you can see it's usually for the better in the long run. Okay, so I'm drifting a bit because this is kind of a tough thing to put into a certain structure, because all these things are so interconnected that I have to give you certain bits and pieces of these topics before I'm really going into that. So let's say you have any hard situation that happens in your life. Let's say you don't have a lot of money and you have to work really hard for yourself, for your family, whatever. And you have the mindset that, why is this happening to me? Or, I have to work so hard and the other people don't. And this is so mean. Like, why is life so mean? And everything is negative, right? But then if this is your mindset, then ask yourself, like, who created that situation? Did you choose your job or didn't you? Like, did anyone really force you to do that job? Or did anyone really force you to buy that house or to get that loan of $200,000, $400,000 or whatnot? Did anyone do that? Did anyone force you to buy a car or to, get a student's loan or whatever? If you really think about it, then you should see that most decisions you were making. It's not that, some things come from the outside. That is true. I'm not saying things do not happen, but you always have the responsibility to decide how you act on things, right? So we already talked a bit about karma and that you're responsible for your actions. What you can also do, if let's say you don't have the time really to change the environment that you're in, what's always possible, and it sounds like repetitive. You may have heard this very often, but if you think positively, without being dishonest with yourself, just see things as they are and see the good in it. Don't exaggerate. Don't say everything is fine or, oh, everything is so good and I love it here. No, but see the good in it. Let's say you have 2 jobs and you have barely time and you're working for your family and for your house and your car and everything and for your sick parents, whatnot. You could say, well, you have a lot of responsibility for them and that is a good thing. you're working very hard for them. It's not only that you're working for yourself, but you're working for other people. That in itself is something really high, you know. It's not egoistical. It's not selfish. Or let's say you broke up with your friend, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You can see the bad in it and say, oh, this is so horrible, I loved him or her so much. Or you can just say, this is a new opportunity and the relationship wasn't doing well anyway, so why cling to it? It doesn't make sense. Now I can be open for something new. Let's see what happens, you know? It's just with these type of, you know, it's just a psychological thing. It's just a thought. Let me see if I'm still recording here. Yes. So it's just thoughts that you have to change. It's not that you have to change the outside world. You don't have to change the environment to get a big change in your life for this. Sometimes, you know, the thought is just a very subtle thing, right? You can easily change your thought any time you want, right? You can't really change the environment that quickly, but over time you will come to realize that this is what you should do. You should change your thought patterns first and your behavioral patterns first, and then you will see that also the outside manifests in that way. You may have heard of the law of attraction, which is also a very strong key concept. If you haven't heard of it, I will give you a short introduction into the way I see it and understand it. It basically means that however you think and act and behave, this will reflect in the outside world and you will attract more of those things. So if you play your whole life, you play the victim role and you say, oh, the whole world is against me and everything is so bad and oh, this is so difficult and oh, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, and oh, I have no self-confidence, I'm just a little gray mouse, nobody likes me. Well, how can the outside world react any other than to give you these things, except give you the opportunity to, you know, get out of this crap? But you are manifesting these things by behaving in that way. You will attract people that kind of fit to that frequency, to that energy frequency. And if you feel like a little small mouse, fearful and weak, then you will attract people that abuse this weakness in you. And this is true for so many things, especially in relationships. If you're having a really bad relationship, like your partner, let's say your partner is beating you, then ask yourself, why did you connect with such a partner, right? Because you won't just get the best partner in the world if you behave like an idiot. You have to, you will always resonate on a certain frequency and you will attract these kind of people into your life, people, situations and everything. This is true for people and also for your health and for many other things. So understand that you have to change first. It's not, you can't really change the outside world that easily. And if you try and do it, it takes a lot of energy, right? It takes a lot of energy, maybe money, time. It's, it's a way to try it, but in the end you will notice it's not going to work. This is not going to work in the long run. What you should do is you should change yourself first. I know this sounds kind of maybe a bit hard, especially if you're having, really big problems at the moment, but try and take the distance from yourself and see that it's way easier to change your attitude towards things than to change the environment, or let's say the people's behavior, right? So if someone behaves like an asshole the whole time, let's say one of your colleagues, so he's behaving like an asshole all the time, well, you can wait 20 years and try and change him and he won't change. And just imagine how much energy that takes. And you're working with this guy for 20 years and he's bugging you for 20 years. Do you really want to endure that? Do you really want to try and invest 20 years of your life in changing a single person, just by, why is he that? Why is he that way? The other approach that I'm recommending right now is that you change your own attitude first and then see what happens. Instead of, fighting back, or instead of being an asshole yourself, change yourself and then see that it will manifest in the outside world as well. let's say the assholic people in your environment, they will get away. They will slowly fade away, and new people will come into your life that resonate more with what you are right now. So this law of attraction is also something that I regularly explain to people on this chat, because they seem not have understood yet that it's really just about their own behavior. They think it has to do with kind of randomness of the world or something, but from my experience now, there is no such thing as randomness. There is no such thing as fate. It all has to do with your own karma, with your own actions, things that you did in this life or in a past life or in whatever life before. So that kind of brings us to the next, or to the one of the big topics, which is responsibility. And you can see this word in two different aspects. The responsibility, let's say, for your family, for your children that you have, or at work. This would be, I guess, the normal semantics of responsibility. But you can also say that it's your ability to respond. Kind of, this limits people in a big time when, something happens to them. Let's say somebody yells at you, or some negative experience happens to you, and you think you have to react in a certain way. You think you have to react angrily, or you have to be sad, or whatever. But responsibility can also, mean that how many types of responses do you have for this type of situation? I agree that you cannot always change what happens to you on the outside. If some car crashes into you, maybe you could not have changed that in a sense, but you can change the way that you react to this. You don't have to have these automatic responses. So although it's not very easy to usually react in the current moment, you can, at any point in time when you have 5 or 10 minutes free time, just get into that topic when you have the time, when nothing is bugging you, and then see how could you have reacted to that, right? Are there other options? Somebody yells at you, do you have to yell back? No, I don't think so. You can understand, why is he yelling at you? Why is he mad at you? Maybe it has nothing to do with you even. Maybe he just had a bad day and he had bad, experiences at that day. Or maybe his parents died or whatever. You don't know. But you can try and be understanding without being a little mouse and say, always sucking in all these aggression. You don't have to do that, but you can be understanding and not reflect these things back to people. And by doing that, you will overcome certain tendencies that you have. And you will see that things like that will disappear from your life almost completely. Up until the point where, I don't know, where you can ask yourself, does it really still exist? Like, certain things have disappeared from my reality almost completely, and I can just assume that it's because of the changes that I made to myself. Okay, so a very important aspect about this responsibility is that you have to stop the victim mentality. This is so important. And it also has to do with your self-confidence, but this victim mentality, I cannot change anything about it, and always everything is against me. You should really stop that, because it's not helping you in any way. It's just you're just pitying yourself. You're just pitying yourself, and it doesn't help. Like, why do you do it? Why do you do it? So really stop doing that, because it also belittles you and nags on your self-confidence. So stop that completely. Another thing about the self-responsibility is that you create problems and you also create the happiness within you. This may be a bit more advanced, but But let's say at some point in time, when you think about it, it may also help you. But there are no problems. Ta-da! I said it. There are no problems. Well, it also comes back to the concept of emptiness or Shunya, that no thing by itself is a problem or contains anything that makes it a problem. There's no flag in, when someone dies, there is no flag saying, okay, this is a problem. Why? Let's say 1 million acres of forest burned down. Yes, you can call it a problem, but is it a problem? For who? Why? For example, let's say a big forest burns down. You may call it a tragedy, but you can also see that there are certain types of trees that, from what I heard, it's the red oak, that require forest fires. So, or at least thrive way better when there are forest fires. So, the point that I want to make here is that you can always see the good or the bad in things. It's not inherent in these things, and if you're not responsible for your perspective on things and how you see things, then I don't know what kind of control you think you have if you can't even control the way that you're seeing things. And why I'm saying this is that when you have the choice to create a problem, you also have the opposite choice. You also have the choice of creating your own happiness, right? It's the same thing. Like, happiness is not contained within things. Like, I love cats, but the happiness that I feel when I'm with cats and stroking them and whatnot, it's not inherent in a cat, right? Some people hate cats, which I totally cannot understand, but it's not inherent in the cat itself. It's just for some reason that I totally love to pet them and to stroke them and to see them eat and everything. I almost love everything about cats. So it's just a point of view. And if I do not like a certain thing, and if I create a problem with that thing, I must first understand that I can also change that from being a problem to something that, doesn't really bother me. Because just by giving it attention, it's also law of attraction, it's kind of like related to the topic. By giving it attention, you are definitely giving it energy. There are also experiments to prove that. One would be from Masaru Emoto, who's also famous for his water experiments. And I also made this experiment myself, that if you deprive anything of your attention, it loses energy. And it also works the other way around. So if you give it energy, even if it's negative energy, it's still more than depriving it completely. So not sure if you get the point, but yeah, I just hope. Okay, so another point, and the last one for the self-responsibility, is that some people seem to, and I had the same tendency sometimes, I know, but not anymore. Some people have the tendency to always see the guilty in other people. It's never themselves, especially if you're playing online games, team games, and you're losing, and then you're like, well, this is always the other people's fault. Think again. You can say, yeah, sometimes other people make mistakes, but always finding the guilty in someone else doesn't really help you. You should first ask yourself, okay, maybe the mistake is in me. So did I do something wrong about this? Maybe I'm having wrong thoughts about it. Maybe I make the very same mistakes that I'm judging on other people. And more often than not, I found that the answer to this is actually yes, that I'm having a negative thought about someone or something, someone's behavior or speech. And I'm like, I want to judge, but then before I do, I think, okay, can I change something here? Maybe my thought patterns are wrong, or am I doing the self? And I figure, yes, I'm doing the same stuff. So this is just a weakened form of what I've already been trying to tell you, is that you will see these things in the outside world being manifested as a result of your own thought patterns, of your own habits, own energies. The quality or the degree or the strength of what you will see in the outside completely corresponds to the quality or strength of your inside. Or even, let's say, if someone's really aggressive at you, and let's say me, I can totally decide if I want to react in an aggressive way or not. And if I do, it has a certain reason, maybe to stop the conflict even or something, but I can also stay calm for as long as possible and see how he reacts to that. And most of the time it will help, if there are any aggressive people at all. But so instead of seeking the guilty in the other people or in the outside, first try and see how much of this guilt is really inside you. Because then, it humbles you down. It humbles you a bit, because when you come to the conclusion that more often than not, you have the same faults, the same errors than everybody else has. And this is true really often, if you're honest with yourself. You start to relax a bit and think more before you say something. Maybe you can catch yourself having a negative thought, a judging thought, which is kind of still better than having this judging thought, than, to instantly react to the situation and say, you're guilty, you're responsible, blah, 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 right? So this packet of responsibility should give you, the tools to shape the way you react to things. And by doing this, although you're not even changing the outside world, you will see how you change in the inside, and you get more relaxed. You get wiser, actually. Really use the word wise or wisdom here. You get wiser by doing that. And I think this is what a lot of people can use these days. More wisdom by experience and by leading by example. Good. The next point I want to talk about is what is this all about? Right? This life, reality, and so on. And the way that I see it, and it's also, it's also a good way to see it, even although it may not be completely right, but I'm pretty sure it is. This is all about growth. This whole thing, this whole reality, your life, you're being embodied to have a certain experience. This is about growth and experience and learning things. And in the long term, reunion with higher entities. You can call them God, or you can call them the higher self, or whatever you want to call it. But this is, I think, where it all leads to, and where the sages have been telling us for thousands of years that this is the way to go. This is the original meaning of the word yoga, by the way, which means union. And what is this union? Many people just know yoga because for the asanas, for the postures that you're standing in and you're moving like this, like that. This is what people see in the outside. But the original meaning and intent of yoga is to connect you with your higher self and with God, if you want to call that, want to call him that. I try to avoid that word because there's so many, different ideas about it and what he is, what he is not. So for the sake of simplicity, I will maybe say God, but, call him whatever you want. Call it the universe. I also like that expression because it's not so dogmatically inclined. So this whole thing here, you being in this body that you have, in this type of situation that you're in, the environment, this is about growth. You decided at some point, consciously or unconsciously, that this is necessary or you want this for your growth. And imagine there was no growth in your life. Then, what are you going to do? Imagine you're already united with everything that is, and you're experiencing everything that is at the same time. There's no more time for you. There's no past and future. everything is clear, you're always joyful, then what do you do from there? I mean, you have to get back into being unconscious at some point in time to change something. You can't just stay there forever. So I think at some point in time, we decided we have to become more unconscious, and thus we split up into these different entities that we call you and me. It sounds a bit weird, but please stay with me. So we all, every human being, every animal, everything that has consciousness is trying to get back to that state. And this is true for you, for me, and for everything. It just depends on how aware you are of this fact and how fast you want to take this journey. You can relax a few hundred lifetimes and not make any significant steps toward this. Or you can try your very best, because now in this precious human body that you have and that I have, this is what the sages call a rare opportunity. And we should use this opportunity to grow as much as possible, to get rid of the bad karma that we have and improve our own lives. And if you were listening to me, what I was talking about the last 30-40 minutes, then you understood that by changing yourself, you're also changing the outside world. And for me, this is like, ever since I was a child, I had this thought of, I want to improve the world. I want to, do something good to the world. Except I'm not really sure how to do it. What's the best approach for this? Because I want to use my time as efficiently as possible for that. But I think if you're doing that, you can't go wrong, right? You can help other beings. It can be people, or it can be animals, or it can be for nature, whatever. You can create new inventions, whatnot. If you're doing something that really helps mankind, nature, and every being that is, without causing any suffering, that is the right direction, right? Check if the job that you're doing meets this requirement or not. Are you doing something that doesn't create any suffering, and does it really help all the beings in this world, or at least a certain part of it? If not, you should maybe think about doing something else, or maybe in your free time. But coming back to the topic of, this is about growth. When you see there are no enemies and only teachers, there are only friends and teachers, you can see the world in a totally different light. You can see that every experience that you called bad before, after a very short time, can become an experience of learning. And at least for me, I like learning a lot. Not learning a lot in quantity, but I do like it. What's that? Is it an adverb? A lot. I do like learning because it broadens my horizon, and I see it that way, that this is what you should do. You should grow. You should not encage yourself in a golden cage and then stay there forever. And end of story, you die, next life, do the same thing over and over. No, you should grow. You should do something to increase the quality of your life, while also increasing the quality of life for every other thing that exists. And if you're causing suffering with what you do, that's not a good thing to do. I was also talking about that you should change the inside and not the outside world. This is why these problems come into your life. They force you to, first it may be small until it gets stronger and stronger, and maybe you get a disease from that, or you can't just stay the pressure any longer. But this is what happens if you don't understand that this is about changing you. This is about your growth. So, yeah, it gives you a lot of relaxation and a lot of, I don't know how to call it, but when you understand this, right. Okay. A common proverb that I like to say is that you can't fight the wave, that you can learn to write it. Just imagine this. I mean, if life and the universe and everything is kind of throwing this pressure and these problems at you, and how long do you think you can endure that? I think not very long. And you will, I mean, you see that it's not doing you any good to fight these things. So if nothing has worked for you so far, you should try my approach and really change you from the inside, right? It will help. Yeah, the next and last thing will be about the self-confidence. Please continue watching the video on part 2, which I also have linked below.